Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. Andrea, great lead into our Monday, the Monday after, right? The Monday after the regular season is now over for baseball. Fantasy baseball as we know it no longer now exists. We'll turn our eyes to some football this morning, but we're going to take a look at the playoff brackets and the games, and I'm going to give you some predictions. And I know Andrea was just talking about the Marlins and their blowout losses in September. You know, here's another school of thought. I'm going way back. Okay, in 1983, the Dodgers played the Phillies 12 times during the regular season. And in those 12 games, the Dodgers won 11 out of 12. And so they are lined up to play each other in the NLCS. The Dodgers have won 11 of 12. Of course, the Dodgers are going to run roughshod over the Phillies, and of course they didn't. And the Phillies won 3-1 and played the Orioles in the World Series. I'm just saying it's a different season that we're in now. And I say put aside whatever happened during the regular season. It starts over fresh now. Players who may not have performed before may perform in an incredible way in the offseason. We may talk about some of those who might be a player to look out for. And our playoffs start Tuesday, and the first game is the Astros at the Twins. That's how we start our playoffs. And so, pitching aside, let's talk about hitters some this morning. Good morning, Tabitha. It's good to see you watching, getting some good information about sports this morning. That's what I like to see. The ladies, the gentlemen who want that information, we're going to give it to you. Here we go. So, Tabitha, if you have any questions, just type them in. I will make sure I answer any questions that you might have. How about that? Do my best. So, Astros, Twins, tomorrow, 2 o'clock Eastern time. Who to watch out for? Well, I tell you, who had a more disappointing season than Jose Altuve? I mean, he hit like 217. And, of course, now we're seeing all the write-ups on he needs a trash can to hit. Yeah. But, would it really surprise you if Altuve came into the playoffs and just raked, particularly against that Twin pitching? Now, the Twins are going to throw, it looks like, 3 right-handers in the 3 games. So, Astros, Michael Brantley. I think Michael Brantley is a great pick to see how he performs with that left-handed bat against right-handed pitching. Pineda hasn't thrown a lot this year. I've never really been carried away with Berrios. We'll see how they make out. But I'm looking for Altuve. Let's see what he does. And, of course, a player that I've watched in fantasy this year, I know I just said you can't rely on regular season, but Kyle Tucker, I would not be surprised if he doesn't have a good series. Look, that Twin Astro series could be magnificent because they're fairly even teams. We'll see how it goes. White Sox play the A's at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, these games are like back-to-back. They're going on while others are going on. That's playoff 2020, guys. That's the way it works this year. And the White Sox and A's, okay, first of all, I'm going to be real blunt this morning. To close out this season, the A's couldn't hit. To close out this season, the White Sox couldn't win many. So you got 2 teams on a down note headed into the playoffs. The White Sox are young. I think if the A's jump ahead in the series, it's going to be tough for the White Sox. Likewise, if the White Sox start hitting, I am just not impressed with the bats of the Oakland A's. And frankly, their arms have been a little underwhelming of late as well. Now, the bullpen, Oakland, Liam Hendricks, you get that far, you got to give the edge to the A's. But I'm going to like the White Sox in this series. Then you got 8 versus 1 squaring off at 5 o'clock tomorrow, the Blue Jays and the Rays. Now, on paper, you got to favor the Rays. I think the Rays win the series. They may sweep the series. But the Jays have some young hitters. The Blue Jays fails, frankly, guys, is the pitching, and we know that. But the Rays aren't loaded. Now, I know Andrea mentioned Brandon Lau, and there's some good hitters on that team, but the Blue Jays have some good hitters too. But where the Rays just will pound the Blue Jays is at starting pitching. When you start with Snell, and it just goes on with Glass now, and Charlie Morton, these guys will, I think, make it 3 and done, and they'll move on. The Yankees play the Indians tomorrow night at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Now, you guys know, if you know me, I'm a Yankees fan. But you also know, if you know me, I pretty much call it like I see it. I have been not impressed with the Yankees' fundamental play in the last 2 weeks. What do I mean? Okay, so I'm watching the game, throw over to first. Luke Voigt's playing first base. The throw is right here. I mean, Voigt doesn't have to move. From the pitcher, it hits his glove and bounces off. The runner advances. That's fundamental baseball. And the Yankees fail. Who led the major leagues in errors this year? The New York Yankees. I think Brian Cashman did a poor job. I give him an F for assembling a team. First of all, they're way too right-handed. Second of all, they have too many people who either hit home runs or strike out. Third, they don't have good defensive players in the right positions. Gleyber Torres is a great talent, but him playing shortstop, he's not a good shortstop, and that has also caused him not to hit well too. So I blame Cashman a lot. And then I wonder how many times these guys actually practice, because it looks like none. It looks like they never practice. I think the Yankees go out early. I think Cleveland advances, which would make for the Indians, the Rays, the A's, and the Astros advancing in the American League. The National League starts on Wednesday, 4 games on Wednesday. There are 8 games on Wednesday, guys. 4 National League and 4 American League. I mean, if you like baseball, just turn on the television. Get one of those screens where you got multiple games on. You can watch everything at one time. On Wednesday, Cardinals, Padres, 5 o'clock. The Padres have suffered some major pitching losses here lately. Lamet, we don't know. Paddock, he's been not playing as well. Clevenger has an elbow issue. On the other side, the Cardinals can't hit. I can see these games being 3-2s and 2-1s and those kind of things. And then I look at, in a series like that, which team has the best player? And Fernando Tatis is the best player. And I look for Fernando Tatis, who tailed off at the end of the year, to have an outstanding opening series against the Cardinals, and the Padres advance. Brewers, the 8th seed. The Brewers have a losing record. The Brewers haven't hit all year. Their best player, Christian Yelich, is 100-point batting average under last year's performance. And now they're playing the top-seeded, arguably best team in baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers. I know baseball can do funny things. I know baseball can produce interesting games. But if the Brewers beat the Dodgers in the first round, I'm going to come on here without a shirt. I'm going to go shirtless. I'm going to do a show without my shirt. Now, you ladies, I know you're going to love that. But they're not going to win. The Dodgers will beat the Brewers, I think, in convincing style and advance. Those are the games on Wednesday. Now, we know there are other games to come on Thursday, more National League games. Let's take a look at those. By the time the Reds and Braves play, the Dodgers will have a 2-0 lead over the Brewers. Reds and Braves, to me, is an interesting, maybe the most interesting series. I think the Reds win it. I think the Reds advance. They knock out the Braves. The Braves once again go out in the first round of the playoffs. And then the Marlins and the Cubs. You know, you're going to love it. Andre was talking about how the Marlins were blown out so much in the month of September. I think the Marlins outlast the Cubs. There's just something about that don't say I can't do it attitude that the Marlin players and teams have. Look, They were the first team dramatically affected by Corona. They survived that. They thrived. They won. Their young players have performed. Their pitching has come through. And you say, well, there's no way the Cubs can lose out. Well, there is. I remember in 1988, the Dodgers played the A's in the World Series. Canseco, McGuire, Eckersley in the bullpen, Dave Stewart on the mound, Bob Welch on the mound. Okay, these guys were just great. The Dodgers were hobbled. Kirk Gibson could only play one game. They lost Mike Marshall. They lost all kinds of players. There was no way on paper the Dodgers could beat the A's, but they did, 4-1. And though it may look like that, I think Mattingly, who's manager of the year, will rally his team. Upset special. Marlins take out the Cubs in the first round. There you go. So I've got the Marlins advancing. I've got the Reds advancing in the National League. I got the Dodgers advancing in the National League. And I got the Padres advancing in the National League. Let's see how I do round one before we pick round two. How about that? Players to watch. I think the Dodgers to me, the Dodgers have the total package. They have the starting pitching. They have the slugging. They have the base stealers. They have the hitting for average. They have the bullpen. The question for the Dodgers is, how will Clayton Kershaw perform this year? He's never been a playoff pitcher. Will this be the year that Clayton Kershaw shakes off the ghost of Fall Classic pasts and becomes the pitcher that we know he is? If he does that, the Dodgers will be the Fall Classic champions. Let's talk about some football this morning. I've got a fantasy football team that in week one lost by 1.3 points. That's right. And I had 3 players get injured in the same week. Had any one of those players not been injured, I would have won week one. In week 2, I lost by 2 points. And in week 2, I had another injury. So yesterday, my thinking was, let's just hope we don't have any injuries. I won 170 to 104. A 66-point butt kicking. Yeah. So you wonder who's on my team. Quarterback, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, I drafted him like in the 4th round. He has thrown 14, that's right, 14 touchdown passes in the first 3 games of the season. That is the most in 3 games in the history of the National Football League. And so the Seahawks have said to the North Carolina State Wolfpack alumnus, they've said, you take the ball, you do what you want to with it. And that's Russell Ball in Seattle. 39.5 points in fantasy, projected for 26. So he was 13 points above projections. I had CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver. He was projected at 10.99 points. He scored 10.10, just a little bit under. Game flow dictated not as much attention to CeeDee Lamb. But Keenan Allen against the Carolina Panthers, projected to score 13 points, came through in a big way for me with 23.7 points, 19 targets. You think he's not the rookie quarterback's favorite target? 19 targets is almost unheard of. 13 receptions, 132 receiving yards, and a touchdown. And for the last 2 weeks, ever since Justin Herbert has been installed as the quarterback number 1 for the Los Angeles Chargers, Keenan Allen has been a wide receiver 1. And I predict he will continue to be. At running back yesterday, I had James Conner, projected to score 15.68 points in my league. And he came through with 22.9, 18 rushes, 109 yards, 5 targets, 4 catches, 40 yards, and throw in a rushing touchdown. And even in a week where Ezekiel Elliott only rushed for 34 yards, he had 12 targets receiving for 6 receptions, 24 yards, and a rushing touchdown. And in my half-point PPR league, Ezekiel Elliott scored 14.80 points. I had Jerick McKinnon for San Francisco, who scored 15 points. And here's the kicker. Picking a defense this week, I looked at who's playing the Jets, right? String your defenses. Who's playing the Jets? And it was the Indianapolis Colts. And I get 26 points for my defense. Unheard of. 2 pick sixes, 3 interceptions, 2 sacks. Gotta love it. Big win yesterday in the Justice League, 170.50 to 104.18. And let's move on to week 3. How about the NFL undefeated yesterday? The Patriots took on the Raiders in Foxborough, and the Patriots took advantage, took control, won the game. Bad game for Derek Carr. The Raiders, they'll bounce back. They got a good young nucleus. But yesterday, they were taken to school by the Patriots. I'll tell you something about Bill Belichick. Love him or hate him, he's going to be prepared every game. And yesterday, he showed his preparedness. He took the Raider tight end who had caught 14 passes the week before and turned him into nothing. Absolutely nothing. And when Waller didn't catch any passes, that just totally threw the Raider offense out of whack. So let's look at some more scores from yesterday. Again, the Patriots beat the Raiders. Cowboys lose to the Seahawks yesterday, week 3. Tonight it's Chiefs, Ravens, Monday Night Football. That ought to be a great game. 2 undefeated teams. The Dolphins on Thursday night beat the Jaguars. The Browns beat the Washington football team yesterday. Steelers go to 3-0. They beat the Texans, who are now 0-3. The Bengals and Eagles tie. Talk about a game of futility. They're both no wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie. The Giants improved to 2-1, even though they were decimated with injuries. They beat the they beat the Giants. The Giants are now 0-3. And look, the Cowboys are in first place in the NFC East with a 1-2 record. But the Giants are 0-3. They're tied with Washington, actually. Washington's 1-2, and the Eagles are 0-2-1. What used to be arguably the best conference in the NFL has turned into the worst. The Titans keep the Vikings winless. The Titans are now 3-0. They come back from way back. Win at Minnesota. It's their first 3-0 start since 2008. The Vikings are 0-3. The Bills had a big lead in Buffalo on the Rams. The Rams came back to take the lead. The Bills scored late to win 35-32. The Bills are undefeated. 3-0. The Rams are 2-1. The Bears are undefeated. They're 3-0. They did replace their quarterback Trubisky yesterday, midstream. Atlanta's 0-3 for the first time since 2007. The Panthers get their first win out on the West Coast yesterday. First win since week 9 of 2019. They beat the Chargers 21-16. Already told you the Colts win 36-7 over the winless Jets. Seahawks remain undefeated, 38-31 over the Cowboys. Buccaneers beat the Broncos in Denver, 28-10. The Buccaneers are 2-1. Cardinals moved to 2-1, beat the Lions. The Lions beat the Cardinals, knocking the Cardinals from the undefeated ranks. Matt Prater for Detroit kicks a game-winning field goal as time expires. And last night, the Packers moved to 3-0. They beat the Saints, who are now 1-2. It was the Green Bay Packers' first win on the road versus the Saints since week 16 of 1995. Wow. It's been 25 years since the Packers beat the Saints on the road, and they did it last night, 37-30 Sunday Night Football. So that's a look at the NFL tonight. Again, the Chiefs and Ravens. Fantasy baseball season ends. Congratulations to those of you who won your seasons. And now we get ready for the playoffs. I have the closing to go to this morning, so I'm going to be a little short. I'm going to try to go on the air tonight and do a deep dive with some other friends of mine who played fantasy with me this year, talking about the baseball playoffs. I'll try to do that probably around 8 o'clock if it works out for everyone. So keep your eye on that. Thank you for being with me this morning. Have a great Monday, and I'll see you, if not tonight, tomorrow, right back here on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports on the Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports Network.